What's generally happening when all of a sudden there's this big hype about something, particularly if there's a few people, is when they discovered it, it changed their life. It doesn't mean it's going to change your life.
Right.
It might.
Yeah.
Back to when it's only a flag. It's not saying don't do it. It's just like when there's lots of hype, people have gotten very excited about it because it really did solve a problem for them. But back to, is that a problem that you actually have?
Are you feeling overwhelmed, stuck, or uncertain about how to grow your business without sacrificing what really matters most? Welcome to The Business You Really Want, the show for women ready to build a sustainable, fully aligned business. Aligned with what, you ask? You, your values, your life. Seriously, it is possible. I'm Tanya Kubo, and along with business advisor extraordinaire Gwen Bortner, we're here to show you how. There's a belief that once you know enough, you stop making bad decisions. That experience protects you. We believe that our expertise will filter out bad advice. But if that were true, smart, experienced, and dare I say it, successful business owners wouldn't still get pulled into things that don't actually serve them or their business as well. And that is what brings us to today's episode, part 3 of the What We Didn't Know series, which is this hard lesson. Knowing better doesn't protect you from information that is presented as universal truth. And Gwen, since this is a lesson you thought was really, really important to share with our listeners, I want you to set the stage for us.
So I don't know anyone who hasn't gone down a path, followed a piece of advice, bought a piece of software, bought a course, done a thing, hired a coach, hired a consultant. The list goes on and on. All advice sorts of things, where they got somewhere through it. It was like, this is so stupid. Why am I doing this? I know better than this. But they got sucked in. They were way, it's not like when they got far enough, it was like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was. That's a whole different thing. It's I know this. I don't need this information. I already knew that I knew this. I knew that I knew as much as they did. And yet we get sucked in to paying for it, investing in time, investing energy, any of those things. It has happened to every single solitary one of us, I am sure. And even though I would love to say at this stage of the game, it doesn't happen to me anymore, it's not true. It happens way less. I've finally gotten skeptical enough about practically everything that it happens way, way, way less. But I've been an experienced business owner for decades now.
Yeah.
And it's still been happening in the last 20 years. So it's not that it goes away. And I think the reason is everyone wants to believe that there's a silver bullet. Even when we know there's not.
Yeah.
We all want to believe that if we just find the right person, do the right thing, and and I find it lands in 2 spots. It tends to land either in the spot that we are least confident in, or in the spot that we're most confident in. When it's least confidence, like, I know it's me, I'm sure it's me, and this other person, this other thing, this other tool, this whatever will be the thing that'll actually make the difference because I know it's me. Right? The other side is, I know I've got this, but I bet they know one thing more than I do. Or this feels like it's just enough different. I wouldn't say it that way, but it feels like it's different. I think I need to know this thing so that my knowledge will be, quote unquote, complete, which of course is never a real thing either.
Right.
right? And not that you won't learn anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the other piece of this. Not that saying that it's bad information, that you didn't learn anything, that, it's none of those things necessarily. It's just that, was the exchange an appropriate exchange? And when I say exchange, I'm not talking about just money, because sometimes it's money, but sometimes it's not money. It also can be time. It
Mm-hmm.
can be energy. It's, the three things that we talk about all the time: time, money, energy. Was it an equal exchange, the value I got out of it for what I put into it?
Mm-hmm.
Time, money, energy. And it's just so seductive. Now, the other thing that I've also learned is often the one we're finding most seductive is because they're a really good salesperson, not necessarily good at the thing that they're delivering.
It's true.
And so that's where I've gotten really skeptical. It's like, does this just feel slick?
Mm-hmm.
Because if it feels too slick, that's become one of my flags over time. Because at some point I realized, is like, oh, I'm getting sucked in by the slickness, not by what they're actually trying to deliver. And then, of course, the other thing, and this was the piece of advice we talked about just a couple episodes ago, but I think is a really important one, is, was this a problem I knew I had before I came across the thing? That's your thing that you share. And I love that. Is this a problem that I knew I had before I came across the thing? Or did the thing get very exciting because someone I like, someone I respect, people that I think are cool, you know, whatever, are talking or doing this thing?
Mm-hmm. So when was the last time you got sucked in, Gwen? Be
When was
honest.
the last time I got sucked in? It's been a while now, I think. Unless you can think of one that I'm not thinking of.
I can think of a conversation, but I wouldn't say you got sucked in. And it's been a couple of years.
Yeah,
But
it's
I wasn't sure if you had something fresh on your mind of something you
no,
got
I
sucked
don't
in
think I've
on.
got like I said, I've gotten much better at it because I'm starting to realize that often and of course this is what I help other people see, and back to, you can't read your own label inside
Mm-hmm.
your jar, is that a lot of times I'm trying to fix a root cause problem by solving a symptom that may or may not even be that close to the root cause problem, because the symptom
Mm-hmm.
is easier to address. And so I've gotten much closer about, like, oh yeah, I want to do this because if that quick fix would fix that thing, that would fix everything in my world. But it's like,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not really fixing the problem, because the problem is way over here in left field, dug deep, 10 feet under, you know, and I know to fix that is going to be really hard work.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know that it's appropriate to say sucked in, right? Because there's a connotation to sucked in that I don't think is necessarily appropriate when it comes to circumstances that I'm thinking of with you. It's almost like blinded. I would say it's more blinded, but you have, since I've been working with you, you have invested a significant amount of time, not always money, but definitely time in messaging, courses, programs, and services,
Yep.
even though you have me as your chief marketing officer. And a big portion of that, right, is because you and me, well, we've been honest about it on the show, right? We know that there is a disconnect between what our clients experience once they're in the container and what they thought you offered when they were outside the container, and the amount of time it takes them to come to an understanding, right? So it makes sense. But, looking back at a lot of those things, a lot of those were really the same exact course dressed differently,
Hmm.
right? And, I remember, and the worst of it, of course, is it all involves you answering a whole series of questions that you had answered before you hired me, that I specifically asked you, that, you would be like, well, but maybe this person can unlock the key. Maybe this person can unlock the key. And as you're going through it, it's all the same questions,
Yeah,
right?
it's the silver bullet, right?
Right, right, exactly. It's like there has to be something here. Somebody has to see something. But what I would say is that every time, right, like to your point, right, you've gotten more and more wise. And of course, because you have me to reflect it to you, I can be like, okay, even though this is kind of the same course you took 3 years ago, you went into this one for different reasons, and we're in a different place than we were 3 years ago.
Right.
So it makes perfect sense that we would want to try this again. And so you have gotten wiser over the time, which I think we do. But the reason I ask kind of like when was the last time you got sucked in is because I also think a lot of us think we're going to reach this arrival point
Oh yeah.
where
That's all,
we're
like what I was
immune
talking
to
about.
everything.
The when it's actually around things that we know, it's that completion, right?
Yeah,
My knowledge will be complete. When it's stuff that
right.
we don't know, we think that it'll be the answer.
Right. And the thing is like, it's not, the world is always changing. And though in the grand scheme of things, most business is pretty much the same. It's just, we laugh about what is old is new again, right?
Mm.
Like blogging's back in, long form content is back in. 5 years ago, it was all about short form content, right? Everything kind of ebbs and flows and goes back and forth. But, I can talk about like recently, I almost got sucked in. So because I work in the social media space, right? Social media ads comes up a lot. And there is a particular type of ad model that I have followed, I have used, and I've had great success with over the last 3 years. But it doesn't change the fact that a lot of people in my circles have other ad gurus they like. And I generally recommend 2 ad gurus, depending on what your business model is. If you want to do this, go to this person. If you want to do that, go to that person. But everybody has, for the last 3 or 4 years, been talking about this other person who I have no familiarity with. And I have done a really good job going, you'd be so proud of me, of being like, nope, don't need to know that. Because I already have my 2 gurus who work in almost all instances if you're this model or that model. But after a while, you're like,
Oh
what am I
man.
missing?
Yes. After a while, all that noise in
Maybe
your head. Yeah.
this person has the thing, or maybe I could blend this person's thing with this person's thing, boom, 10x results, right? And so I got their like lead magnet, and I was like, oh, I'll do their free challenge. And it was about email 2 before the free challenge started. And I was like, oh, they just teach lead ads. Well, I know about lead ads. And lead ads don't work because, back to our last episode, I don't need a traffic-based model, right?
Hmm.
I need a different kind of model. That's why the ads systems I like work for me. So I was like, oh, I don't actually need any of this. And then I could unsubscribe because I know enough about ads at this point in my career
Yep.
that once I figured out what their ads methodology was, I instantly knew it didn't apply to me. But I'm not going to lie, Gwen. If I had like $5,000 sitting in my bank account with nothing else to do, I would have been very tempted to buy their thing just to see what the hullabaloo was about. How sick is that?
Oh yeah, we all do it, right? I mean, we all do it for all sorts of things. Of that sort of piece where it's like, but I'm still curious. I still want to know.
Right?
Back to there's probably something in there that I'm missing, right? But it comes back to the end of like, but really, would it been worth the $5,000, the time, the energy, right? Would you have gotten out that thing? A different example, but one that people can probably relate to, was when Notion was really hitting the
Oh,
world.
talk to me. Talk to me about the tech, because I love a good SaaS darling of the moment.
Yeah, right. So Notion was really hitting the world, and this was a number of years ago now, right? So don't no one needs to put in the comment, oh, but they fixed that. I know they fixed that. Right? So
We
don't.
know Notion is awesome. We
Yeah,
can still choose not to use it.
right. And here's the thing: because I come from a programming background, I really do understand tech. My husband has always said, it's like, you're just like a natural super user. He says, even when you don't know the program, you can actually figure it out really fast, like what the key things are and whatnot. And so everyone was talking about Notion, and I could see it being a great, like, all-in-one tool because I don't have a complicated business, and it was like, well, that could be
Mhm.
really, really useful, and so I was really excited about it. So I sat down one evening, I mean, literally one evening, I was like, "I'm gonna play with it a little bit and see," it was the free version or whatever,
Yeah.
but, just check it out and see what was there. And the thing was, it was like, "Oh, yeah, I can see why people are loving this. I
Right.
can totally see why people are loving this because the folks that are hyping it up are creating their own versions of
Mhm.
their systems and processes and things and saying, "You can pay me and get a copy of this, and I will or you're gonna pay me to implement this," and that, like, I could see where the business model was, I could see all of the things of it. That wouldn't ever be me because I don't generally hire people to implement tech in my business
Right.
because I've got enough of a tech background. What I saw was a big giant black hole
Which is what I saw.
because you can customize so much. And what I realized was I was going if I headed down this path, and this is back to where my enough experience over time paid off,
Right.
um, was, oh, I would be thinking about every way I could possibly use it so that I would create Notion to only work with my brain,
Oh, yeah.
right? Which isn't actually helpful if you've got anyone else on your team. Feels like it
Yep.
is, right? Feels like it is. And at the time, back to what the comment was about, and I know they fixed it, was recurring tasks
Mhm.
was a big thing for me. And at the time, you had to program a workaround for recurring tasks. So I actually did the research to figure out what that was because it's like, yeah, I'm okay with that if we can fix it. And was like, oh yeah, even that doesn't really do what I want it to do in the way that I want it to do
Mhm.
it. I was like, nope,
Yeah.
I don't need this.
Right.
Right. But it was because I understood it was tempting me down a path I didn't need to go.
Yeah. So I'm curious from your perspective, do you have any what I want to ask you, but I don't know if this is an answerable question, is what does information that is presented as universal truth look like in the day to day? So that you can identify that, but I don't know that it's that easy to synthesize.
Well, so I think there's flags.
Okay. Give us the flags, Gwen.
Okay, so I don't think it's actually, I don't think we can put rules around it, but I think there's flags, things that you can say, let's check on that. So one is when, quote unquote, everybody is talking about it.
Mhm.
Okay. Because usually that means that either good marketing has started taking place for the thing and or people who have large circles of influence have gotten excited about it because it's a great fit for them,
Mhm.
right? One of the things that way back in the day when I used to teach knitting, there would be people who say, "Oh, you have to use fill in tool, technique, all of this."
Mhm.
And my very good friend Kelly Nuss pointed out what they're really saying is when I discovered this, it changed my life,
Yep.
right? And so what's generally happening when all of a sudden there's this big hype about something,
Mhm.
particularly if there's a few people, is when they discovered it, it changed their life. It doesn't mean it's going to change your life.
Right.
It might.
Yep.
Back to when it's only a flag. It's not saying don't do it. It's just like
Mhm.
when there's lots of hype, people have gotten very excited about it because it really did solve a problem for them. But back to, is that a problem that you actually have?
Yeah. Is that a problem you have? And I would also add, are you currently running the type of business they have?
Mhm.
Because oftentimes what happens is we invest aspirationally, right? So I see that person who has that gigantic audience and I want that, because our listeners know that I work in online communities. Let's just say it's Rachel Miller, right? I want Rachel Miller's bazillion-dollar business with her 100,000 member Facebook groups, right? I want that. And so she says this tool is helping her. So I'm going to go buy that tool because it'll help me get to where she is. But the only reason that tool is helping her is probably because she has 8 Facebook groups of 100,000 members or more.
Right.
That tool would not be useful to somebody in the same way until they were at that level. So if I've got one Facebook group of 5 people, investing in that tool is not going to get me to where she is.
Right.
If anything, it's going to have to sit on a shelf until I get there. What I really need to be looking at is, the 10-year ago tool or whatever.
Right. Exactly. So that's one of the flags is if it's got a lot of hype, is really trying to understand back to, is that really what I need to be looking at? Right. And if you are, not saying that you shouldn't look at it, back to,
Right.
I still explored Notion because it could be, but being more skeptical than just assuming, yeah, no, we just need to move. We've got to ditch it. We use Asana. And so it's like, oh yeah, we got to ditch Asana and go to Notion right now. No, be skeptical. So that would be the first flag. The second flag, and we talk about it all the time, is that things that are being touted as best practices usually are just common practices. Right? So when it says it's a best practice, it's like that's another one of those making me go, is it? Or is it just what a lot of people are doing? Because most of the time success doesn't come from doing what everybody else is doing.
Right.
Right? And so it's about being unique and being able to think about, what is unique. The third flag has this person, or, wherever I'm getting the advice, right? Wherever I'm seeing it, have I followed their advice before? And has it worked for me? Like you said, at where I am, at my stage of business, all of those things. Has it panned out consistently over time? Okay. So one I'm going to pick on that I do like is Mike Michalowicz, right?
Okay.
He's got his books, and I find that his books always have good information and are work for me regardless of where I've been at my stage of business. Right? So I am more likely to try something or follow Mike or do some of those things because it's work he has delivered for me in the past.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just someone that's like, I've got this thing. And it's, and it's amazing. The other, which I think goes to your point, which is another flag to watch for, is this the same thing in different wrapping paper?
Yeah.
Now, this has been less of an issue recently, but like you said, we've been around the block many times and these things come around and around and around. There was a time for a period, and it's probably still happening, but I don't feel like it's as prevalent, where someone with some notoriety would take someone else's idea and wrap it in their own wrapping paper, but it was exactly the same thing. And it's like, I have this fabulous thing, right? Without giving any credit or the rest of it. And all of a sudden, if you happen to be the person who knew the original creator of it, it's like, this feels exactly like the thing that used to be in blue paper, but now it's in purple paper.
Right.
Right. So if it feels like it's the same thing, that's to me the next flag. It probably is. Because honestly, there's not that many truly new ideas.
Yeah.
Very few people are coming up with really new ideas. They may have a different spin on it. They may approach it from a slightly different angle, but very few people have truly, truly new ideas.
Yeah.
So that would be my other flag.
Okay, I've just got one more. And I would say this is most common to tech, but it does sometimes go into other things, which is if you see that there are businesses that are entirely existing to support the thing. So,
Say
for
more. I love
example,
that.
yeah. So, around 2020, a high level, because there were a lot of people love Funnel Gorgeous. Funnel Gorgeous is high level, right? It's just been white labeled and there's some add-ons to it, right? So what I should say, to be more accurate, is Funnel Gorgeous is built on the high level platform.
Right.
And it was like, oh, high level can do this and this and this, right? Just like back in the day, ClickFunnels, because they do a lot of similar things. But the thing is high level is such a beast, and the same is true for Notion and some other apps out there, that there are people who are running $40,000, $50,000 per month businesses just supporting the implementation of high level.
Right.
Because while high level is a great tool, it is like too much for a lot of people. And so, if there's an entire business ecosystem in implementing a specific software service or a specific practice, I'm thinking like EOS on the operating side.
Yeah. EOS is a great example of that. Yeah.
Right. Then I've got some red flags, right? Because it can't be the end all be all if I have to hire a whole team in order to make it work for me.
Right.
Or maybe it's just not meant for me yet. Right.
Right. And that becomes part of it, right? To me, that's another great flag of, did I get sucked into something because it seemed cool? Right. And you're right. If people are having to, well, and this would be one of those, is it a red flag or not? Well, if you've got a business that's the size that actually would have to be paying for internal support for this kind of thing anyway, then maybe this is not a flag.
Right.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of businesses out there that have entire departments of IT doing doing support, and their job is implementing and maintaining systems. And so if your business is getting to the size where you've got paying for that kind of thing is not like a then okay, then maybe it's not a red flag. But if you're a solopreneur or a really small business, and the thought of having an entire department supporting a thing is a little big-eyed kind of response, then probably that's bigger than it needs to be. Flag.
Yeah. So what do you think, I should say, is a question that a business owner, especially those who have been around the block a few times, right? We're not talking about the newbie business owners here. But what's one question they should ask when they hear advice that sounds like, this works for everyone?
Well, it's, gosh, I wish I could remember which movie it's from. I know it's a Bill Murray movie because I am almost...
You're a big fan.
Well, and I'm almost positive I remember he's the one that says the line when someone's... Oh, no, it's actually Hugh Grant that says it. Have you actually talked to everyone? Do you actually know everyone? In his very British accent.
Who is everyone?
Right. Who is everyone? Do you know it? Have you actually talked to everyone? And so that's the first thing, is when people are like, everyone, this is perfect for everyone. It's like, okay, that can't ever be true.
Yeah.
Right. Just can't. But the question, the real question, I would say that in my head, because I would hear Hugh Grant saying that in my head. That would be the first question I actually would ask, is like, but do you actually know everyone? The next question that I would be asking is your question, which is, was this a problem I knew I had before someone told me I had it?
Yeah.
That would be my next question. And then my third question would be, what's at risk if I don't do it versus what's at risk if I do it?
Right. I always ask people to look 6 months ahead.
Yeah.
What's different 6 months from now if you do it? Right? Like, what does that look like?
Right.
Okay, now if you don't do it.
And what's different if you don't do it? Yeah. That can be a really telling question, but you've got to be honest about it when you ask that question, because a lot of times it's like, oh, well, all my problems will be solved. And it's like, really? Are you sure that's true? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how confident are you in that all your problems will be solved? And how much time and energy is that gonna take? And, if you're 98% sure that all your problems are gonna be solved, then it's probably worth it. But if it's like, well, it feels like it should be, and it's like, yeah, that sounds like a 10% answer, not a
Mm-hmm.
90% answer.
Yeah.
How much energy is gonna go to it versus the energy you could put into doing whatever you're currently doing? That,
Right.
because back to any time that we do anything, when we say yes to anything, it doesn't matter what it is, we're saying no to something else.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be obvious what we're saying no to, but we are saying no to something else
Mm-hmm.
because it takes time, it takes energy. That means that's time and energy and or money, all
Mm-hmm.
could be all three, that we're not doing to something else.
Yep.
Right.
And so what I'd like to do to kind of wrap us up, because I love the decision filter you just gave us. And I also feel like that decision filter works across the board. I mean, at the risk
Mhm.
of sounding like I'm contradicting the whole episode by offering advice that is universally true, but I think that
But
that's
it's
a
a
really good
filter that
filter.
you can really apply. Yeah, that
Right.
you can apply in almost every
Mhm.
situation.
Right. And so I kind of wanted to just do some summary of those situations because we've talked a lot about like software and, courses or whatever. But, one thing like back in the day, what you were referring to is like the Jeff Walker's product launch formula,
Yeah.
which we all now know is a webinar funnel, right? But that all came from Jeff back in the day. And that was when he came out with that like blew our minds. Or you've got like,
I was part of that crew.
is it Ryan Dice, I think, was the ask method,
Mhm.
right? Which
Yep.
is really just segmenting your audience the moment that they come in, which many of us now do, and pick software that allows us to do that. But that is, these are this would be the same thing as, does everybody need a webinar funnel? No, I don't have a webinar funnel. You don't have a webinar funnel, Gwen. We're doing okay, right? It doesn't work with our business model. But
Right.
I still have people trying to pitch me on, I have to have a webinar funnel because everybody has to have a webinar funnel if they want to do
Right.
XYZ. It's not true. Like back to, have you really talked to everybody? Like everybody? I don't know about that.
Right.
But this is also, so I would say this is true in those sorts of circumstances. It's true in platforms, yes, but it's also true in how you want to market, how you want to grow your list. There are people who will tell you the only way you can grow on social media is through paid ads. That's actually not true. There are a lot of organic strategies that still work, algorithm or not, right?
It's also true for advice.
Well, I was going to say, and advice. Lay it on us, Gwen. You fill in the blanks on that one.
Right? Like one of the current ones is you need to scale. Well, maybe you don't need to scale.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe you actually have a business that's totally
Mhm.
working exactly the way it needs to. And
Right.
scaling is actually going to put some things at risk. Maybe you
Or
don't.
the only way to scale is working one to many.
Oh, yeah. That's also my favorite. But that you even need to do anything.
Mhm.
Like, you have to grow your business. You need to scale. The only way to scale any of these advice things back to
Mhm.
how important is it that I actually do that?
Yep. And back to advice, and we've addressed this on the show before, but these are good examples just to keep in mind, right? Everybody's first hire should be a VA, or everybody needs a VA. You should never touch your inbox. You should never schedule your own appointments. Nobody should ever have direct access to you. Because as the CEO, even if you're the CEO of one, you are too important, right? All of that advice is true for some people, but not necessarily for everybody.
But not necessarily for everybody. Yeah.
And this is one, Gwen, I'm going to say again, like typically we say, hey, if this resonated with you, you kind of like the fact of how Gwen and I ask questions, and you probably want to spend a little bit more time with reflection. And so you should subscribe to our One Really Good Question newsletter, which you can find on our website at everydayeffectiveness.com. But I'm going to argue that if this is something you struggle with, this is another one where you really need some outside perspective. And so I'm going to encourage you to book a one-on-one call with Gwen. And you're going to do that by going to everydayeffectiveness.com/clarity. It's a short call. It's not a sales call. but you can just come to the table with, everybody says I should do this. Let Gwen ask you a few follow-up questions. And by the end of that call, you're going to be further along in knowing whether that decision is right for you or not than you would have been any other way. All right, join us next time for the 4th installment of What We Wish, or What We Didn't Know We Didn't Know, What We Wish We Knew That We Didn't Know, which is my hard lesson. And that is, you can't outsource being the boss. And I will tell you why that was such a painful lesson for me to learn if you join us next time. Thanks for tuning in to The Business You Really Want with Gwen Bortner. I'm Tanya Kubo, reminding you that sustainable success is within reach. Make sure to subscribe to the show and visit thebusinessyoureallyWant.com for more resources. Until next time, keep dreaming big and acting with intention.